𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant is a low-maintenance, winter flower plant that comes in many color varieties. In this video, we will uncover every useful point you must know while growing 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plants. Overall, it is the only guide you need to understand for getting it on a heavy and healthy blooming. So let's begin, and don't forget to subscribe. 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant is a permanent, winter flowering plant. Native to a subtropical region. They are drought-tolerant, succulent plants and grow very well in a cool area. That's why it comes in the list of winter flowering plants. Some other easy-to-grow winter flowers are added in the description box video, you can grow them too. But for 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plants, the maintenance and care requirements are very less. They have thick and fleshy leaves that helps them survive in a dry area. They get a little dormant in the summers, but the impressive thing about them is that they are permanent flowering plants, and can have a life cycle of around 7 years, with constantly blooming habit. Most people grow 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plants because their flowers blooms and stay fully fresh for around a month. This plant normally produces bunches of buds, and as they bloom their flowers fills your garden with beautiful colors. Unfortunately, their flowers don't have any smell, but their range of colors is very wide. You can grow 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plants by buying their younger plants at the starting winter days, and then you can propagate them either by their stem cuttings or through their leaf propagation. Their propagation is very easy only if you can keep moisture of the medium in control. Once you have these plants, then you need to follow up some very important things for their healthier growth and blooming. The first and the most important thing in 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant care is its proper seasoning. Their growing season starts as the temperature starts to drop from 30 to 35 degrees in the early winter days. A little cooler environment is extremely important for their buds to fully bloom. They produces buds and flowers in the whole winters, but after the heavy blooming of spring days, the summer's heat gradually affects their flowering. In summers they produces very less flowers, and most of the time plant faces a dormancy condition, on which we will talk in a while. But still you can enjoy their beauty around 6 to 8 months of the year, by a proper care. Another problem that can affect 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant very badly is an overwatered condition. As 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant is a succulent and have moisture stored in its leaves, you have to be very careful while watering. A weekly watering can be a good choice, but your soil mix should be well draining as well. Too much moisture in the soil can cause a stunted growth and rotting of its stem. So first let the soil to dry out completely. Your plant wouldn't dry out, because it can survive without moisture for weeks very easily. When the soil starts to look like this, then you can add water. Give a deep and frequent watering and then again wait for the soil to dry out. This way your plant grow well and produce blooms also. For a proper 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant care, a poorly draining soil mix can be an issue. If the moisture don't drains out time to time, the roots can rot and whole plant can die. A soil medium with pH of more than 7 can be bad for them as well. On the other hand, a little acidic pH promotes a heavy and consistent flowering over the plant. 𝘾𝙚𝙪𝙧 plant loves to grow in a sandy soil mix. Clay soil or overuse of coco peat in your medium can cause an overly moist condition. To overcome this problem, you should add some sand or perlite in your mixture. It helps in better drainage. If you want to make a well-draining mixture by yourself, a complete guide is linked in the description box. Otherwise, a ready-to-use potting mix for succulents is also added there to buy. Just make sure your soil mix is drying out time to time. The next point in our 𝘾𝙚𝙧 plant care guide is about its sunlight requirements. The sunlight of winters will be very healing, but the burning sun of summers is not good for its growth and blooming. You will find very ideal growth in a sunny spot with minimum 2 to 4 hours of sun. You can also provide a full day of winter's sun, but not the summers. The deficiency of sunlight causes the elongation of its stems, and the plant produces a very few flowers in its result. So choose a sunny spot and place your succulents there. Another thing in 𝘾𝙚𝙧 plant care is about its fertilization. Every plant requires to have a nutrients-enriched medium to constantly continue its growth and blooming. 𝘾𝙚𝙧 plant is not a heavy feeder, but gives a very delightful response as we use a good fertilizer. A low-dose fertilizer can give you a consistent blooming, but for a fully blooming 𝘾𝙚𝙧, you should use a nutrients-enriched fertilizer with an acidic pH. This thing promotes hundreds of blooms over your plant. I am using my own bloom booster recipe, that is also linked in the description box video, with complete guide on its usage. You should also try this one. A single dose helps in better growth of its buds and flowers. Otherwise, you can also buy a ready-to-use bloom booster fertilizer from the description box. Just keep the plant fertilized every 15 to 20 days. One more thing that affects its flowering health is the pot size. The roots stuck much quickly in a smaller container, and if you are trying to grow them in a small container, the results wouldn't be good. They don't require a much bigger pot. 5 to 8 inches pot is good. but make sure it's not a plastic pot, because chances of overwatering will be very high in that. Kalanchoe plant haven't many pests and diseases, they are very hardy and low maintenance plants. Overwatering can cause rotting of its leaves and trunk, just be careful about that. Fungus attack can be a harmful thing, because succulents comes up with such issues very commonly. For the solution you can use neem cake in your soil mix to avoid fungal growth. A complete guide about neem cake is added in the description box. Lastly, let's talk a little about the dormancy time of Kalanchoe plant. It is a winter season plant, but can survive summer's heat very easily. You just have to place your Kalanchoe pot in a shade with a good amount of indirect sunlight. Just make sure the direct sunlight is not hitting the plant. In the rains, you also have to protect the plant from the rainwater, because it is a succulent and can rot. So it's all about Kalanchoe plant care. For any question, leave a comment below, and check out some of the other, easy to grow winter's flowering plants here in this video.